Hello everyone, my name is Jason, aka Bacon Chest, coach of the St Kilda Superiors. Welcome to week 3 of the MLBA versus Virgie and the Kelowna, I'm not sure how to say it, Mawiles. So, this is our week 3 game, looking to continue our winning streak that we started last week. This team, however, this matchup is a lot scarier. So, you can hopefully see Virgie's team on the right hand side of your screen. He has the Mega Mawile, the Latios, the Tyranitar, the Buzzwole, the Roserade, the Jellicent, the Excadrill, the Bronzong, and the Houndoom, with Latios, Roserade, and Excadrill being the 3 Z users he's chosen with his budget. Obviously, a few big threats standing out on this team. You've obviously got the Sandcore with T-Tar and Excadrill. That's definitely going to come. Excadrill has a overall very good matchup, although I do have one really good response to it. T-Tar has a reasonable matchup against my team. Then I'm definitely expecting to see the Mega Mawile, because Mega Mawile is terrifying. It's just a really powerful mon. At +2 with Sucker Punch, it destroys lives. He's run it with Trick Room in previous weeks, so potentially that could have been something to look out for. Then Latios is a big threat for my team, because it, can threaten a lot of my mons. And then aside from that, I wasn't quite sure what else would come. Roserade could potentially be a problem setting up T-Spikes and Spikes, and potentially putting things to sleep, although obviously I do have the Electric Terrain to nullify that. Bronzong, Bronzong I was definitely expecting, with the Levitate over Heatproof, although Heatproof could have been an option to take on Infernape a little better. But I was expecting the Levitate because Earthquake does do a number on this team, obviously hitting Mawile, T-Tar, and Excadrill and Houndoom super effectively, and that's a bit of a problem for this team. So I was definitely expecting the Levitate on the Bronzong. So yeah, Bronzong, Excadrill, T-Tar, Latios, Mega Mawile. Those 5 were pretty sure, and then I was sort of Buzzwole or Roserade. Was kind of expecting for the 6th, with Jellicent. Oh, and Jellicent was the other thing I was maybe a little bit expecting. Just because it stops fighting plus flying coverage from doing well against this team. Fighting, flying, ground, which otherwise are really good types against this team. I wasn't expecting to see the Houndoom. I have an Infernape. I have Tapu Koko. I have Crobat. I have Salamence. All of these things. Don't mind seeing seeing a Houndoom on the other side of the field. So let's go over the team we did decide to bring. We started with a Crobat. This is a special attacking Crobat with Heatwave, S-Slash, U-Turn, and Dark Pulse, and an Expert Belt. Enough speed to outpace Latios by 1 point, which lets us run a Modest Nature and a little bit of HP, so we can take 4 Rock Switch-ins. This set is mainly here for Buzzwole. It will just always check Buzzwole with S-Slash, so that's really good. And then Dark Pulse and Heatwave can actually hit pretty much my opponent's entire roster, so Heatwave's hitting... Heatwaves hits Buzzwole and Roserade, obviously S-Slash can hit them as well, but if I want to ease prediction. But also Heatwave is hitting Mawile, it's hitting Excadrill and Bronzong, whilst Dark Pulse is hitting Bronzong, Latios, Jellicent, and yeah, that's pretty much my opponent's entire roster. So yeah, this thing was quite effective at chipping away, and that was a bit of a theme with this team, was to just try and make sure I can chip away at this team so that he never had things at full, because I have reasonable defensive responses to this roster, but not consistently over a long game. So I needed to make sure that I was consistently chipping away, such that we could finish him off with one of our faster mons. So, our next 2 mons are our defensive backbone of this team, with the first being Metagross. Metagross with a Colbur Berry, Meteor Mash, Earthquake, Stealth Rock, Zen Headbutt, and max HP, with a little bit of speed. This set is our dedicated response to Mega Mawile. I can switch in as he goes for a Swords Dance, live a +2 Sucker Punch, quite easily, and do a hell of a lot of damage with Earthquake. It'll put him in range of the Mark Punch that I have on my Infernape. It'll put him in range of, Tapu Koko very easily. And both of those things can obviously tank a Sucker Punch. Infernape doesn't have to because it has Mark Punch, but, you know, just in case. Or, like, you know, if he does set up the Trick Room. The other thing that this set does is potentially gets up rocks on a Sucker Punch, which is quite nice if I, you know, have lived the first one and then want to stop the second one. Meteor Mash hits really hard generally. I'm not expecting to be clicking anything except for Earthquake, because I'm not expecting to be in on anything that's not Mega Mawile, but if we are, Zen Headbutt, obviously good for Buzzwole, just so that thing can't set up on us, which it otherwise would have been able to. And then, yeah, Meteor Mash hitting things like Lardy, things like... T-Tar is the other thing that hits really, really, like, hard, and harder than Earthquake would have. Yeah, pretty simple set, dedicated to responding to Mega Mawile. Next up, we have Tangrowth. This is our dedicated response to Excadrill. Because with Earthquake, Brick Break, Knockoff, Leech Seed, max HP, max defense, tiny bit of, like, 4 attack EVs, we're able to take anything an Excadrill can throw at us. We can take a +2 Z Iron Head, potentially not a +2 Adamant Z Iron Head. 100% sure. I think we were still able to tank that, but like that's an indication of how bulky this thing is. With Leftovers, we're able to nullify the sand damage. With Regenerator, obviously, we're able to, you know, eat up sort of smaller hits, and with Earthquake, we're able to do a lot of damage, which once again puts Excadrill in range of Mark Punch from Infernape. Brick Break is there for the T-Tar, Knockoff is there for things like Latios and the Jellicent, and Leech Seed is there because whilst we could have had a Grass move, Leech Seed was actually kind of good for chipping away at things, and we didn't necessarily need the Grass move because it was only really going to be useful for Jellicent, and I'd kind of rather knock that thing off just to get rid of any kind of Resist Berry that he might have for some of my other mons, or even just getting rid of lefties would be quite useful. So now we get to the more offensive part of this team. So we have Infernape with U-Turn, Mark Punch, Flare Blitz, Thunder Punch. I just realized now, this is, you know, after I've played the battle and I'm now recording this video, that I had the ability set as Blaze and not Iron Fist. Whoops, my bad. It was definitely meant to be Iron Fist. But that's okay. Didn't end up mattering in the battle. Which is nice. But yeah, with Electrium Z Thunder Punch to take on the Jellicent, I think it still only deals like 60-something%, but, you know, that's good damage. And I mean, that's on like a very physically bulky Jellicent. He might run a specially defensive one. Who knows? Otherwise, this thing puts in a lot of work. Like, U-Turn for T-Tar, U-Turn and Mark Punch for T-Tar, and like a T-Tar's not going to stay in us anyway, so U-Turn's really good in that situation. Flare Blitz hitting the Mawile, Flare Blitz hitting the Buzzwole, the Roserade, the Excadrill, the Bronzong, you know, like, yeah, this coverage is really effective on my opponent's team. We're able to outspeed everything except for... I'm trying to think what we went up to. It might have been a... Timid Roserade, I believe. Might hit 306, if I'm not mistaken. We didn't go for Houndoom because I didn't care if Houndoom outsped me, because what is a Houndoom doing to an Infernape? Especially when I'm just clicking Mark Punch anyway. Could have had Close Combat, but Mark Punch, as I've kind of established already, is necessary for the Mega Mawile and for the Excadrill. And then Flare Blitz, Thunder Punch, U-Turn were just so good against the rest of my opponent's team. So yeah, pretty simple set there. Then we've got a Salamence. One day we will run a Salamence that is not DD 3 attacks Yachi Berry, but it is not this day. Because this day we're able to run Aerial Ace Crunch Earthquake, which is a very silly set, but Aerial Ace still OHKOs some variants of Buzzwole and some variants of Roserade, and a +1 is definitely OHKOing both of them. So that's great. Like, you know, it doesn't need Z Fly. You know, Infernape needed the Z move a bit more this week. And this enables us to run Yachi Berry, which means we can set up on the Buzzwole. It means we can set up on the T-Tar potentially, although we won't probably set up on the T-Tar just because, I mean, we could if I don't think he'll switch out. But, you know, obviously Excadrill will come in and check us afterwards. But yeah, it means we can set up on other things that might be able to click HP Ice, like Roserade, Does Mawile get Ice Punch? I'm not 100% sure, although obviously Mawile is not going to click Ice Punch, it's going to click Play Rough against us, so that's not relevant. He could have run like a HP Ice Houndoom, I guess, or like an Ice Beam Jellicent, for example. So yeah, it just gave us a few more opportunities to set up, and then once we did, Crunch is hitting most things, Earthquake is hitting most things, Aerial Ace is hitting the two things that resist or are neutral to that. So yeah, this thing, and at +1 speed, I believe we outsped everything. I'm trying to think what that exact speed number is doing for me. I want to say it's... Oh, I think that's outspeeding a Jolly Buzzwole before we get the boost, which is good, because obviously then we can outspeed a Scarf Jolly Buzzwole, which is quite nice. And for our last one on the team, we have Tapu Koko. I was looking a little bit weak to Latios, especially because Metagross is so dedicated to Mega Mawile that I am not going to be switching it into a Latios at any point in this game. So I decided to run an Assault Vest Tapu Koko. Enough speed for the Latios, with a fair bit of bulk. This allows us to live 2 Psychics from a Scarf Latios. Which is good, because Scarf Latios could have been a real threat, obviously destroying Infernape, destroying Crobat. You know, Scarf Psychic is going to do a lot to Salamence, and is going to do a lot to Tangrowth because we're not AV. Wild Charge, U-Turn, Brave Burn, Nature's Madness in case he does decide to switch in to the T-Tar or the Excadrill. Or even the Roserade, because, you know, we can get that sort of guaranteed 50% off and not have to really predict. And then we can just click U-Turn, because we're going to outspeed pretty much anything unless it's Scarf. With this spread, we can actually live a Scarf Sludge Bomb from a Timid Roserade, I believe. Was, I believe, the calc that we went for there as well. And whilst his Latios could have Psyshock over Psychic, I don't think Psyshock was a guaranteed 2-KO either. And the thing with that, it was that there just really wasn't a reason for him to run Psyshock over Psychic, because the one thing I was very likely to run Assault Vest on in this game was Tangrowth, which doesn't care about Psyshock and probably actually still takes less. Or, you know, if it's taking more, it's like very minimal amounts more, whereas the power boost from Psychic is fairly significant against things like, you know, Crobat and Inferno, which might be able to live a Psyshock depending on, like, if I did run them bulkier. So yeah, that's about it in regards to the team. So let's get into the match. So, as you can see, I got my predictions relatively right in terms of what my opponent decided to bring. The Mega Mawile, the T-Tar, the Excadrill, the Latios, and then the Bronzong and the Roserade were the two that were, like, sort of slightly more up in the air. And so looking at this matchup, I am definitely going to lead off with my Tapu Koko. It has a really good lead matchup against everything except for the Excadrill, pretty much, because Mawile has to fear the... Oh, actually, no, I suppose Mawile would have actually been a bad lead for me. Oh, no, Mawile would have to fear the Z T-Bolt, although not the Z Wild Charge, which is what I was thinking at the time, but obviously with Intimidate, it'll probably take that. T-Tar I can just U-turn out on because he's definitely going to be Smooth Rock. Roserade we can click Brave Bird. Bronzong we can click U-turn or like an electric move. And Latios we can click U-turn. So yeah, I was feeling reasonably good about this matchup, so let's get into the game. So yeah, as I said, we lead off with the Koko, he leads off with the Lati, and I'm like, alright, interesting. Not sure what Lati set this is going to be, but I am just going to click the Nature's Madness, because after a Nature's... I sort of didn't want to switch out to anything, because obviously this is my response to it, but obviously U-turn is my best move to hit it. But U-turn does about 55% if he's got no bulk, so I figure if I click Nature's Madness first, if he does stay in and try to hit me, then afterwards we can click U-turn and knock him out on turn 2. So he decides to switch out. I'm actually just going to switch out to slow. Switches out into Roserade. We are able to do 50%. That's really good damage because now we can click Brave Bird super safely. Because as you can see, he has the Cobra Berry. And we're able to kill him through the Cobra Berry because he has already taken half. We've already taken half his health. We do get a crit there, which... So there's a couple of crits in this battle. I don't think any of them mattered. This one... He needed to be, like, max HP plus a lot of defense to be able to live that, at which point I don't think he kills me with Sludge Bomb, even at 85%. But theoretically could have been a roll, so apologies if it was, but I don't think so. Because I'm imagining this was just there to live a hit from full rather or live a hit from mostly full rather than live a hit from 50. And, you know, after he took the Nation's Madness, he might have assumed I didn't have Great Bird. So yeah, Tapu Koko able to pick up a kill, get rid of the Roserade early game, that's good, no spikes or T-spikes to weaken us down. Particularly T-spikes could have been really bad for Tangrowth, because I did see last week he set up T-spikes against Hat, and Hat had a Tangler, which is obviously, you know, the little baby Tangrowth, and that was a real problem for that thing's longevity. So he brings out the Excadrill, obviously, because it forces every variant of Tapu Koko out. So I'm just going to go straight into my Tangrowth. I want to see what this thing's going to do. He does very little damage to me with Iron Head, especially after lefties, so I'm able to just click a safe Leech Seed, because I want that recovery, and I want to be able to, like, get chip damage off on anything he brings out. We're able to get it off on the Lati, which is nice. We just go straight into our Koko as he clicks a Draco, which is nice. And that actually is great, because now our Koko's back at 96, which means that it can once again pretty safely take 2 Psychics, if this thing is Scarf, which I still don't know what set it is, and the fact that he does switch out there kind of makes me think he might be Scarf. Although, yeah, especially now that he knows that I'm physical. If he knows that I'm physical, he knows I can't really kill him. Like, Dazzling Gleam's not going to do that much. Unless I'm, like, Twinkle Tackle, I guess, but it just seemed unlikely at that point. But anyway, so I'm just going to click a very safe U-turn, because it kills the Latios at the range of health that it was at, I believe. Yeah. No, it didn't kill it, but it did a lot of damage. As he brings out the Excadrill, that allows me to bring out Tangrowth really safely. I think I just click I clicked the knockoff there because I was maybe expecting the Lati or the Bronzong to come out. I did want to get rid of those things item, or the Titar could have been another option to try and set up the sand. Either way, I thought knockoff was really good. He does, however, unfortunately bring out the Mawile, so we get a little bit caught out there, because not only do we take the Intimidate, so we can't really Earthquake this thing, we're also taking the knockoff, but that's okay. As we established in the team building portion of this video, we have a very, very solid response to this thing in the form of Metagross. Clicks the Swords Dance, and I'm just clicking the Earthquake straight away. We do a shit ton of damage, which means that this Mawile's not that bulky. Oh, the other thing with this Metagross set was that I had enough speed that I outsped by 1 point an adamant max attack Mega Mawile. So even if he was really fast, I figured he probably wouldn't be Jolly, because then Jolly, like, just doesn't kill things as well. But yeah, even if he did decide to run it relatively speedy, we were still going to get that Earthquake off first before a knockoff, because a knockoff could have actually killed us at +2. So yeah, that was the premise there. He then clicks Sucker Punch, as I kind of suspected he would, knowing that obviously I just kill him with another Earthquake. So I just decided to get Rock Sub, because yeah, like, this thing's done its job. Even if I had died there to another play rough or whatever, I don't really mind. And yeah, so we're able to get up rocks. That's going to be great for chipping away at Lati and Titar and Bronzong. Because we have a lot of things that do around 50% to Bronzong, but obviously if it has lefties, it can potentially take 2 hits. We now take the Sucker Punch, eat our Colbur Berry, not going to matter, because I think that does about 60 to 70 with the Colbur Berry, so, you know, I get destroyed. Now I'm going to bring out Infernape, just click Mark Punch, because obviously this thing's so weak and he's not going to keep it around. He doesn't really have particularly good switches to Infernape anyway. He now has to bring back out the Lati, and I'm just like, cool, we're just going straight out into Tapu Koko. It's our response to this thing the whole game. He knows that, but I don't really care, because now what we're able to see is that he is in fact a Life Orb Latios, which is kind of bad in that obviously now he 2-hit KOs Tapu Koko, so I can only switch into it this once, but is also good because he's now down at 54% once he's taken the rocks and the Life Orb damage, which means U-turn is definitely a KO. We can just click U-turn right here and get a really safe switch onto anything he brings out. And also it means we can bring this thing out as a guaranteed check later in the game. We just might have to sack something first. So, bring out Crobat on the Bronzong, as Crobat, like, was just kind of the least useful member of my team at this point. Like, I could have hit Bronzong really hard with pretty much anything, but Crobat wasn't doing anything against Excadrill, Titar. It does a bit versus Ladi, but obviously is kind of just doubling up with what Coco does, so yeah. And Bronzong couldn't actually KO me with anything, so as you can see, he's got a bit of attack investment, and and the other thing was I knew from that U-turn damage that he was physically defensive, which meant that Heat Wave was definitely a 2-hit KO. So yeah, we're able to 2-hit KO Bronzong with Heat Wave, getting rid of that thing, so we're up 5-3, we're doing really, really well, but this Sand Core is still here, so where there's a T-Tar and an Excadrill, there is a way. And so I'm still quite scared at this point that I'm gonna like look like I'm doing really well and then look like I've choked this game away. Yeah, he brings out the T-Tar. I'm just going to click U-turn here. I'm actually really hoping he clicks Pursuit, trying to catch me on the switch out, because, to be honest, I just want to free switch into something, and I don't really care about Crobat at this point. But I click the U-turn, we get a crit. Now, this is probably the crit that matters most in the game, because, as you can see, we bring out Salamence, and what that crit did was let us bring out Salamence. Because with that crit, 100% KO with an Earthquake. Without that crit, depending on his spread, and I can't actually tell his spread from that U-turn damage, it was potentially going to be a roll. So I think it was something like, if he was no HP, or like very, very little HP, then 40, I think the roll was around 40 to 47 for a crit U-turn. If he was max HP, then the roll was like 34 to 41 for a crit U-turn. So, regardless, you know, obviously without that crit, I'm doing, like 27 points of damage? Yeah, like roughly. So he's got an additional like 13 or 14 points, so he's at about 50 to 51. And, no, sorry. What am I talking about? 61-ish. And if you're at 61, then this is now like a 50-50 roll with Earthquake. Which is obviously a little bit annoying for him. Yeah, because otherwise I would have had to bring out the Infernape to be able to click Mach Punch, and then he can obviously bring out Lati and check the Infernape after I kill off Tyranitar, because I don't think he would have risked hard switching into Lati. But yeah, it would have forced us to sack around a little bit more, which would have been obviously bad for differential. Like, potentially, you know, if we're then able to go on and win the game. But yeah, he clicks Crunch, does absolutely nothing with the Intimidate, as we're able to just click Earthquake very safely, get rid of the T-Tar. That's really nice. He's down to the Excadrill and the Latios, and, you know, as long as we're able to stall out Sand, then we should be fine, although we're probably not going to be able to stall Head Sand, because there's still like 6 turns left. But yeah, we just go straight to Tangrowth as he clicks Swords Dance. And as I established earlier, I'm fairly certain I can live a +2 Z move from this thing, which is nice. And I'm just going to click Earthquake to put him in definite range of Mach Punch, as he actually goes for another Swords Dance, so that makes me think that either his Z move was something that he could have been like Z Earthquake, maybe. I'm not sure what that would have been for. Potentially to beat like a Shukaberry Metagross might have been the premise there. I'm not sure. Like, I'm assuming he was the Excadrill. I just don't know what. He could have been a berry. Could have been anything. But yeah, as it stands, we're able to click Earthquake. We get a third and final crit. Once again, this is a little bit unfortunate. But doesn't matter too much. Basically, I'm fairly certain it was a roll. Not a roll, sorry. I'm fairly certain he lives that without the crit, because I have no attack investment. But, like, to be fair, I haven't actually checked that calc. But regardless, it just doesn't matter. Like, if, aside from differential, it doesn't really matter, because then I can just bring out Infernape, because it definitely does enough to put it in range of Infernape's Mach Punch, and at that point, yeah, once again, we might have had to sack around a little bit more, but the result would have been largely similar, because especially once Sand is gone, obviously the Excadrill is no longer really a threat. But as it stands, Tangrowth is able to pick up a kill, and because I have lefties plus, like, nullifying the Sand, he brings out the Lati, and I'm just like, well, I'm just going to click Knockoff, because I don't think the Lati can kill me, particularly because I know it's not Z, and as we can see, I live that with about 7% of my health left, and I'm able to click the Knockoff and finish off this game. So that's a 5-0 victory. Probably should have been like a 2 or a 3-0 victory, so apologies to Virgie for that. But yeah, I thought overall we played this quite well. We used our responses to his threats responsibly, in the form of Tangrowth and Metagross, and yeah, just Infernape plus Koko plus Crobat were really, really good in this game at offensively pressuring my opponent's squad, particularly Koko with those clutch U-turns, and getting rid of the Roserade. Not that the Roserade was a huge threat, although it was a bit of a problem. The thing that the Roserade was a problem for was obviously it's such a safe switch into Tangrowth like every single time. And so I was a little bit worried about having to repeatedly switch into that. Although the fact that he didn't bring Buzzwole means that Crobat was a bit less useful, so Crobat could have switched in. But, you know, it would have made the game a lot harder. The fact that we were able to get rid of it on turn 2 was quite handy. So, that leaves us at 2-1 with, I believe, a +6 differential, so that's really good. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with how we're doing. I'm starting to get used to this team. I'm finding it quite well balanced so far. But that's about it from me. So, once again, my name is Jason, aka Bacon Chest, and until next time, later.